Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining another Firearms Legal Protection webinar. I'm Ariana, the host for our webinars here. If you're new to our webinars, welcome. And if you've joined us before, then welcome back. Tonight's topic is one we kind of get questions about pretty frequently, which is everyday carry. And this is going to be what should you carry, why, how do you make sure that you're actually prepared without overloading your pockets, purse, or wherever you hold all these items. But to kick things off, we'd love to hear from you, our viewers. So go ahead, drop in the comments what your go-to EDC items that you never leave home without. It could be your carry pistol, favorite holster, multi-tool, even something creative that we might have not thought of or that Austin's going to be going over today. But we are excited to have Austin, the K, still for kindness, right? Yep. Austin Davis is joining us again. And if you haven't watched one of our past webinars with him, then he brings in decades of experience in law enforcement, emergency response, instructor and student training and trauma care, tactics, and just about any topic that you can honestly think of to better prepare people in defending themselves. So I'm confident that he has seen every EDC item that you can think of with the experience that he brings and the number of people that he has trained. So tonight, I'm here, but Austin will be the one going over the items that responsible gun owners and everyday defenders can carry with them, whether that is a firearm, medical gear, non-lethal tools, or even something as simple as a flashlight. So he'll break down what should be in your kit, how to balance and function with comfort too, because that's really important, and what gear actually matters when seconds count. So you can truly rely on those EDC items that you should be able to rely on. As always, we'll wrap up with a Q&A session at the end. So make sure to leave any questions, comments in the comment section as we go. And don't worry if you miss any part of tonight's webinar, it will be available on YouTube to watch later, to review, or even share with your family and friends. But Austin, are you ready to jump in to get us started?
Hello, my FLB family. I am so glad you're here for this month's topic. This is a subject I get asked about every day, just about professionally. In case you don't know, I'm Austin K. Davis. The K, of course, stands for
kindness.
That's our sticking with it. I'm the National Director of Training for Concealed Coalition. I am the head instructor for Concealed Coalition University, the owner of the Virtual Tactical Academy for the last 13 years, traveling the country with my virtual reality simulator, teaching use of force judgment training. I'm also a Texas Commissioned Peace Officer, and I am the training lieutenant for my police department. And tonight we are talking about everyday carry. Now, let's start. What is everyday carry? My definition is it is the minimum, the baseline equipment you will commit to carrying every day to keeping you and the people you're responsible for safer. Now, the problem with everyday carry is I can't tell you what you should or should not carry. Your threat level, your lifestyle, your situation, your tolerance for risk will determine what you carry. And this could be as individual as a fingerprint. But what we do want to think about tonight is sort of a Goldilocks approach. Not too much, not too little, just right. And before we cover anything else, just remember, what is the first rule of a gunfight? Bring the gun. See, if we don't bring a gun, we're not in a gunfight, we're in a shooting. And those are very different life experiences. The second rule of everyday carry is if carrying that gun or that piece of equipment hurts, awkward, doesn't fit your lifestyle, your clothing choices, you won't do rule number one. And in my world, critical events are come as you are. It's not going to be able to say, would you wait right here? I'm going to go back to my car, dig in my glove box. I'll be right back. So if it isn't on you in the time of incident, you're probably not going to have a chance to go get it. So when it comes to everyday carry, let's kind of break this down to some sort of logical steps and work our way on through it. First off, let's talk about mental carry. One of the things I like to do before I ever put my gun on in the morning to head out the door is to think about my personal rules of engagement. I need to start thinking, what exactly am I carrying a gun for? And if you spent more than about 5 minutes around me in a professional setting, for me, a defensive firearm is only good for 3 things, okay? Save human life. I'm not putting this gun on in the morning and carrying it around to try to save property. If someone wants to steal my vehicle, my catalytic converter, take off. But if there's human life at stake, that's what this thing's for. So the first thing, save human life. 2, not harm innocent life. We're going to talk about training with your everyday carry equipment. So to give you an idea of not harming innocent life is we need to know what our range of responsibility, what our little zone of wobble, our zone of commitment, where you know that at this distance, under these circumstances, you have a 100% chance of hitting what you're aiming at. For some people, that may be 15 yards. For some people, maybe 45 yards. Some people may be like a 25-yard shot. But you need to know under duress when you cannot afford to miss. Because remember, there are no misses in a defensive gunfight. It's going to hit somewhere and we're responsible for it. So it's really important for you to know what shots you can and cannot take. And when I load up every day, I think about, hey, make sure it's only to save human life, not harm innocent life. And the big thing I remind myself every day I put on my gun before I go out into the world, and I hope you start sort of assimilating as well, is it's the tool of last resort. That means if I have to shoot somebody, I have no other choice. There's going to be death or serious bodily injury if I don't take action right here, right now. Programming that in your head is very helpful. The next thing is I need to know what kind of head you're programming this into. Now, before I go any farther, just hear me out here for a second. You know, we're not the same people every day we put a gun on and go out into the world to where we work, play, and conduct business. Some days we're really tired. Some days, like right now, sinusy kind of things going on, maybe you didn't get a lot of sleep. Maybe you got some sort of personal anxiety situation. I just got through a long illness with my mother. And so on those days, I don't have a lot of emotional reserve. Maybe you don't have a lot of emotional reserve either. So in those days, we have to understand that we put on a gun. You know, guns don't win gunfights. You know, there's really three things that win a gunfight. First thing, of course, is skilled decision makers. Second thing is good procedural skills. You know, again, that you can draw, you can fire, not fire, stop firing, know where your limits are. So it means you have to get closer or not take the shot. But also the third thing that wins gunfights, though, is emotional control. And it's really hard to have emotional control if you haven't slept, or you're not sleeping well, or you're ill, or you're sad, unhappy. You've consumed alcohol, you consumed some intoxicant. In those situations, either really keep a close check on your emotional regulation so you don't go overboard and lose sort of prefrontal cortex control over your behavior. Or those may be the days you think, I'm not going to carry a gun because I'm already kind of agitated. I'm already kind of real close to the emotional red line. Maybe I'm just going to carry my pepper spray and my flashlight today and call it good. So I want you to kind of get your head together. And then also, if you spent more than about 5 minutes around me professionally, you know, in my world, there's only 3 places for a firearm. That's it. 3 places for a firearm. And then the hand of a rational, sober, competent, trained adult. Attached to the body by holster, sling, or some other device to a rational, sober, competent, trained adult. Or locked away from anybody that's not a rational, sober, competent, trained adult. So when you put your gun on in the morning and you leave your home, I'd like you to also think one more thing, and that is at some point in the day, if I'm going to have to go to some place where I'm in a non-permissive environment, maybe you're going to the doctor's office and your doctor doesn't really like, you know, you get in that little gown and like, you know, trying to go, where'd I put my gun, doc? Maybe you're going to go into the post office. Maybe your work doesn't allow it in. Maybe you're going to go into some sort of school thing. So make sure that you always think about, if I have a place, it's number 3, where I can't carry a gun, have something. This is one of my favorite safes. It's got a retractable, it's got a cable inside. Well, this looks bad. It's got a cable inside that I can lock this to a fixed object. So if I need to leave my firearm behind in a car, if I'm going to be visiting with some friends or family, and I need to secure that gun so it's not in my hand, it's not attached to my body, I have to always make sure that I have something to lock this away from any unauthorized users. Not only theft, but somebody who just wants to fiddle around with my gun or pick it up. So I need to have a place that I can kind of safely park the gun. And that's part of our mental process of making sure we understand that it's not to harm human life, save innocent life, tool of last resort. Make sure we have a good mental record of just how agitated, how sleepy. Just make sure we're on our best game, because it takes a lot of emotional maturity to decide if I'm going to pull, point, and hopefully decide that this is a situation that there is absolutely no other choice. It has to be solved with a firearm. And always remember, if you have to leave that firearm somewhere, leave it responsibly, especially in your vehicle. Most guns, I would imagine, in this country are probably stolen out of vehicles every day. So we've got our headset right, and now let's start talking about some things other than the gun for everyday carry. First off, I think the most important thing you need to carry every day is something you probably already carry, and that is your cell phone. I would not want to carry a gun without a cell phone. even without my gun, my phone's very helpful because it's like my radio when I'm on patrol. It allows me to call for backup, more resources to solve some problem that's obviously beyond my ability to cope. Also, if I have to use that gun, I'm going to need to go ahead and call 911. I have to call my FLP lawyer. I've got things I need to do. And if I don't bring my gun, my phone, what am I going to do if I have a defensive gun usage? Am I going to turn to one of the person I just shot, Billy, convenience store robber's sidekick, and say, hey, let me borrow your phone. I got to call on in. So I really think phone's really important. The next thing to a phone that's really important is I'd like you to go ahead and generate one of these. This is a little card that you print out, and you put all the phone numbers you need. I put some fake ones on here for you. So in this one, I want to show you mine, but it's got my numbers on it, and I don't really want to put that out there. I put it in a bright color so that if I have to have somebody go through my wallet or my money clip to give this to me. Now, why is this important? If you have a criminal defense, if you have a defensive use situation, your phone may be damaged in that process. Also, the responding officer may take that phone from you, or you may not have cell service, or you may not want to communicate with it, or a million different reasons. Also, if this phone is taken away and I'm taken to jail and I get out of jail and this phone is dead, I don't know half the phone numbers I need to know. So for me, having this card, I try to make it about the size of a credit card, slip it in your money clip, slip it into where your driver's license, your license to carry is. And also, maybe I need to borrow someone else's phone to make a call. So this is really helpful. Also, again, you get out of jail, you got to make that one call, boom. It's really a simple, inexpensive thing. So you have your phone, you have your card. What else do you need? I'm a really big fan of carrying OC. If you've been to one of my Concealed Coalition University classes, you know I do a whole class on OC, or commonly called pepper spray, oleoresin capsicum. In my opinion, for whatever it's worth, I think in about 85% of the time that you have a critical dynamic incident with a human being, about 85% of those times, your gun's 100% the wrong tool. Now, in the 15% of the time, about more or less, that you need a gun, it's 100% the right tool and the only tool for that. But there's so many of these situations that develop to where you don't really have the legal right to pull the gun and point the gun just yet. And if you can solve it at a lesser rate, you're in good shape. And a lot of people say, Austin, I don't carry pepper spray. I got a gun. It'll look bad. Think about this. If you spray someone and they still come at you with the chainsaw, the hockey mask, machete, and you have to go to a gun, this sure shows you did a whole lot of things before you went to lethal force. Also, if I do have to get in a gunfight with somebody, wouldn't you like to have someone who's got snot hanging out their face, they're blinded, having a hard time processing air? That's it. Now, use any pepper spray you want, but the one I really recommend, I have no financial affiliation with them whatsoever, but POM pepper spray, POM pepper spray. I'm also a big fan of Sabre, and I think Sabre makes the best case. This has more spray in it. It goes farther, longer. It's got an easier to use actuator. It's just really hard to find this thing. A lot of places only sell it to law enforcement, which I still understand. I think it has something to do with the sizing and this being legal in all 50 states, and maybe this isn't. But either one will work. You can get POM off of Amazon. They're 12, 15 bucks, something like that. If you buy a 3-pack or a 6-pack, these make fantastic gifts. The problem with pepper spray, though, is it's not just having pepper spray. I like attaching mine with a small piece of cord, so it's always next to my keys. So I really can't leave the house without my keys without taking my pepper spray with me. When a pepper spray is attached to keys, it becomes sort of socially invisible. I think there's a very big difference between walking around with keys like this and walking around with your pepper spray like this. All you have to do is spray it. Just use your thumb, point, press, hopefully make the bad guy go away. The other thing I'm really big fan of is a light. Now, I'm getting ready to show you my light. Don't get gear envy, okay? This is the Surefire, I think this is Stiletto Pro 2. It's got 2 heads. So I've got one that's sort of a floodlight, which gives me a lot of situational awareness in a big area, but it gives me another one that's a very tight, high candela focus beam. So what you do is anytime you're in a situation you have low light, and this could be in the evening walking back with your special somebody from a restaurant in a parking lot, could be in a parking garage in the middle of the day, keep this in your hand. Somebody walks up behind you, just turn around, boom, blast right in the eyes, then lower it back down to their chest and go, oops, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Now this person's got a big purple ball of sort of blown out retina right in front of them. They have a hard time seeing you. If they get goofy, bring it back from the chest right up to their eyes. What I like about a light is it's even less force than a pepper spray. It's socially invisible. You can travel all over with this. I was just talking to Ariana about traveling overseas. I traveled one of these and it really is a big deal. And for me, all dark holes have a threat until I clear it. So I'm walking out, it's just bloop, anybody there, bloop, anybody there. And if you're a bad guy waiting in some sort of shadowy parking lot or a parking garage or apartment complex, and someone's walking along, every time there's a dark hole, kind of gives a little blip and look over, that's probably not the victim mindset you're going to pick. And the sooner I can see them, the more information I get, the better decision I can make. Now, these things are stupid expensive, okay? But they're flat, they got a clip, they fit in the pocket. I've been carrying a version of this since about 2019, 2020, and they're amazing. I just got the upgrade recently, and I had the last one since at least 2020. My brother's still carrying the thing. They work great. Now, if you're looking for a budget solution for this, go to Amazon and get a Phoenix, F-E-N-I-X. Get one that's in a small form factor. Just make sure that the activation button is on the back so you can operate with your thumb. It sort of makes things a lot more intuitive than trying to find some sort of button or switch in the front. Also, make sure your light's not too small for everyday carry. I know it's real tempting to go, look, it's got the light capabilities of the sun, but it's smaller than a lipstick tube, because now you have a hard time getting it in your hand and getting it past your fingers. So try to kind of figure out how far your fingers are between here and there. Get one that sticks out just a little bit farther than that. The Phoenix light, dollar for dollar, you really can't go wrong. I carried one for years until I went to this system. They've survived more than one unintentional washing. And I looked down and went, I never knew how to light my washing machine. It was the Phoenix light that came on. So you can't beat it for bang for the buck. And the one thing we're going to talk about before we talk about guns, though, is going to be holster systems. When it comes to holster systems, I want you to remember, I'd like you to think of it as a system, not just a holster. See, the problem is if we just go, look, what kind of holster do I need? These things, generally speaking, probably need to attach to a belt. There are many good ones out there. I'm a little biased. I'm a big fan of the Tenacore Zero belt. The reason I like it is it takes no hardware. You just basically run this in through your pants. They come in different colors. This runs right through there, and it self-locks. I move this over to the next belt loop. I've got something flat right in front of me. It's awesome. And you want a belt that's not too stiff and not too soft. And I really like you getting the belt from the people that made your holster, because they know how to work. Now, if you're going to wear outside the waistband, you may want a stiffer belt than if you're wearing appendix, okay? If you're wearing appendix, you want a little more flexibility, but if you're wearing it at the 3 o'clock or the 4 o'clock position outside the belt, which is still a legitimate way to carry a firearm, the thing is you're probably gonna need a little stiffer belt. So you ideally, in a dream world, make sure the belt that's too soft and doesn't have enough rigidity to it, or it's too rigid, will cause all kinds of problems. So it's a certain kind of balancing act. I carry appendix carry. I'm very confident in it. I don't think I'm going to shoot myself in the private parts. But when I reholster, I've got to be extra careful, because I am pointing it at one of two or maybe both at the same time femoral arteries. And if you take your thumb and just lay it down next to your thigh, that's about the size of a femoral artery. Anything more than about a 1/4 inch nick on that is 100% fatal without some sort of medical adjunct. So we need to be very careful. So if you are going to go ahead and carry appendix, remember a couple things. Reholstering, whether it's appendix or whether it's inside the waistband on the strong side or outside the waistband, that's an administrative task. And a lot of people go, I never look when I reholster because I got to keep my eye on the threat. Well, if there's still a threat, keep your gun in your hand, okay? To me, reholstering is an administrative tactic. And that means I need to go ahead and get my mind in gear, go ahead and think very carefully, make sure that I kind of arch my pelvis so that something does go zing, it doesn't hit anything major, and reholster. Because if you have some sort of cord hanging off your jacket, some sort of bunched up shirt material up underneath there that gets between the trigger and your firearm, this could be problematic in a major way. And remember, shooting yourself with your own gun, you lose major tactical style points. Now, inside the waistband, outside the waistband, very common. There's sort of a couple of things I'd like to talk about real quick with everyday carry. Again, I have no financial relationship with this company at all, but it's Filster's Enigma. Filster's Enigma, it's a solution for almost every carry problem. The Enigma, what this does is this attaches to your body and you put the clothing on outside of it. I can take this and drop this down a lot lower because it's independent of my belt loops. And I can actually get this with I carry a Glock 19 every day, but I can put this in a certain place where even the grip is completely hidden by my waistline. And for a situation where I'm going to be at a public function where I have to wear a suit, I may unbutton my jacket to sit down or whatever, my gun is never exposed. For a lot of people, a Filster Enigma and a fairly flat pistol, something like clear, like this Walter that's really flat can make carrying a lot easier. And especially for some people that have clothing, lifestyle, body shape restrictions with other methods, this is awesome. There's also a lot of online support groups about how to adjust, modify, and fit these things out. Only one bad thing about the Filster Enigma, it's a pricey bit of gear, but you get what you pay for. I don't think you can wear this thing out. And if this thing solves your carry needs, it may solve your carry needs in ways that nothing else can. Now, off the body carry, that means purse carry, backpack, something like that. If you want to carry that way, it's not my favorite way, but what's first rule of a gunfight? Bring a gun. What's the second rule? If it's not comfortable, it doesn't fit your lifestyle, your clothing, you're not going to obey rule number one. So all you can do is carry that. That's great. I would like you to think if you're going to purse carry, for example, as an off body, is carry something that's actually attached to your body. The problem I got with purse carry is the minute I set it down somewhere, I've basically broken one of the 3 rules of where a gun should be because it's now unattended. So just think of the purse carry, if it's attached to your body, like slung on a cross bag, it's just a belt holster with a lot of horizontal movement. If you are going to carry off the body in a purse, my recommendation is get a purse that's designed for carrying a firearm. Make sure it goes into a secure holster, that it's not just tossed in loose with a bunch of other things. Another form of what I almost kind of consider off body, which may or may not be accurate, is pocket carry. I don't poo-poo pocket carry. I think there's a lot to really strong pocket carry. It's probably one of the fastest draw strokes that you can ever pick up without any practice. Depending on the size of your pockets, it may limit the size of gun you can carry. But if you take a firearm, like in this case, safe gun, a Ruger LCR, drop this in your pocket, man, way to go. The only problem I got with pocket carry is I would like to talk to you about maybe going and upgrading your care and maintenance of the gun. I find if people who pocket carry, when they pull the gun out, there's a lot of lint, and that lint is attracted to oil. So either you run a dry gun that doesn't come up with the lint, or you run a properly lubed gun that gets a bunch of lint in it. So the moral of the story is, if you decide you're going to do gun maintenance every 2 weeks or every month, you might want to make it every week or every month or whatever. I'd kind of cut it in half or even more. Just make sure that if you carry pocket, as you think about that. Also, the one downside of pocket carry for me, other than it can only limit a certain size of gun, is it's difficult, if not impossible, to access if you're sitting down or if you've been knocked to the ground. That can be very awkward. But what I like about it is you can walk around with your hand in a gun, makes for a really quick draw stroke, very low profile carry. So do I got a problem with that? No, just make sure you have it in a holster, you practice with it, and understand the limitations of it as far as maintenance. Now, one final thing about carrying a gun for everyday carry. Do you carry in the home? I carry around the house. People always ask me, you carry around the house? What are you afraid of? Nothing, man. I carry a gun in the house. About 75% of the average person's defensive gun use is going to be in or around the home. The reason I carry a gun is because every time I go out the car to get something, I go check my mail, I go talk to neighbors or whatever, I'm in a transitional space. And for me, having a gun on me just works out real well. And the reason I can carry around the house is I've developed a carry system that's comfortable. So I don't even really think about it. So I don't have to fight the gun. It's just always there in a presence. And the way I've got this thing dialed in with my Zero belt holster and my Tenacor holster, instantly Tier 1 Tenacor Filster, all make great holsters. If they can't fix what you got as a carry problem, I don't know how to help you, because one of those 3 companies will probably get your solution. There may be 50 other holster manufacturers that do wonderful jobs. I'm just telling you those 3 I have personal experience with, and all 3 of them are just French kiss awesome. Now, some things I don't carry every day before we get to the gun talk specifically. I don't carry a spare magazine. People often ask me, you don't carry a spare magazine? Well, no, I really don't. If you think about it, tell me the last time a civilian had to reload in a gunfight. It's even if you showed me 1 or 2 instances, it'd be very, very difficult. I carry a gun that holds enough rounds to solve my problem, so I don't have to worry about it. Now with the SIG 365, with the Glocks, we have enough rounds in them to handle it. But in a civilian situation, I really can't imagine dropping the mag, going back and getting in action, and it being still legally relevant. If you look at John Korea Act of Self-Protection, John's done some really good background math. Excuse me. Time for a coffee break. John Korea's done some great math on what the odds are of you having to reload, and it's pretty much non-existent. Defensive knife, a lot of people I know carry a gun on the strong side, and I got my defensive knife. Like, kind of man. If you're into that, that's okay. We don't see a lot of that in civilian defensive knife use. A lot of people tell me, well, I carry a knife because I can injure to a degree. You start stabbing on somebody, that's deadly force. You might as well just shoot them because they're both about there. So this sort of I will injure them by degree kind of makes me nuts. And it's really hard to practice knife fighting in a realistic setting. So maybe if you want to carry one, great, but it's not on my list of priorities. And finally, the one thing that I don't carry that everybody tells you they should carry is an ankle medical kit. For a long time, everyone in the gun space was, oh man, I'm going to carry my ankle gun kit everywhere. And I'm not against carrying medical gear, but you really have to dress around this ankle kit. And I'm not so sure it's of all that help. Now, having said that, if you do carry a backpack or purse, dropping a tourniquet, dropping some wound packing material, dropping a pair of trauma shears on there, pair of gloves, brilliant. But as far as putting on your day-to-day stuff, that's going to be kind of tough. Because remember, what's the one thing about everyday carry? That's the minimum amount of gear you're going to commit to carrying every day. And remember, any critical dynamic incidents can be a come-as-you-are party. So if you want to carry a spare magazine, a defensive knife, and an IFAK in your ankle, hey, if you're with me, I'm good with that. Carry all you want. Carry a belt-fed weapon for all I care. But for me, I have to at some point put a limit on it because there's certain practicality because, again, consistency is what wins the day when it comes to everyday carry. Now let's talk about firearms for a second. A lot of people tell you, safe gun. You got to carry a full-size gun or you're going to die in the streets. Okay, let's talk about guns and gun size for a second. When it comes to choosing a gun, that's a very personal decision. There's a lot of things you have to think about, lifestyle, risk assessment, what you're comfortable carrying. For me, I break it into two camps. Are you a go-to trouble person? Are you a break from trouble person? If you're a go-to trouble person, yeah, a fully sized, fully committed fighting handgun might be really helpful for you. If I was a school marshal, I'm licensed in the state to teach those people, I might want to carry a full-size gun with a light on it. Yeah, makes sense to me, okay? But if you are not the person who's going to trouble, you're the person supposed to get away from trouble, a 5-shot Ruger LCR can solve a whole lot of your problems. If you think about it, if you're a get away from trouble, the person you're dealing with is going to have to be close enough for them to socially interact with you, put hands on you. And the fact that it's got a short sight radius and a limited capacity really doesn't change much of that. This also allows you to actually push the bullet, the muzzle of the gun into their body and pull the trigger, which is a pretty good way to guarantee a hit in this thing. Plus all those expanding gases inside the human body really make them change and reevaluate some of their life choices they made up to that moment. I am still a firm convinced that a revolver has a lot of places in the modern world. So when it comes to carrying a gun, what does make me nervous is when you carry a gun so small that you can't get a full firing grip on it. Or as I mentioned before, I have an XL bordering on 2XL hand. I got a big old hand on me. And if I use a small gun, I over control the gun. And it's very hard for me to take a really small gun like a SIG 365 and get it to run reliably without me just sort of squeezing on the slide because I tend to get my hands up very high on a firearm and with the size of hands I've got. So my wife, though, is a much smaller person, a much smaller hand, and a tiny gun for her is actually proportionally sort of like a full-size Glock with me. So when it comes to gun size, try to find the biggest gun you can commit to carrying every day. And as far as capacity and ammo on that thing, just decide, am I the person who needs to get that person away from me? Or if I hear something at my house of worship, if I hear something at my job, I've got to go and solve that problem. And if so, those are very different gun choices. Now, capacity, how many bullets do you need? How big's a yard ball of string? The problem is I'd like you to think about, though, not John Wick, but John Korea. Start looking at active self-protection and realize a lot of times when people use a lot of bullets, they're firing emotionally. They're not firing to make sure every round counts because they're only here to save human life. not harm innocent life. Because if you start blazing away and using all 15 rounds because you've got 15 rounds, but you may not be shooting emotional control, those bullets are going somewhere and we can hit innocent people and cause real problems. So when it comes to capacity, I don't know. I think if you have about 10 rounds, you should be able to solve most of your problems. But if I had a 5-round revolver and I had good situational awareness and pepper spray and a flashlight, I don't think I'd feel underarmed going just about anywhere. And if I needed a bigger gun than that, I probably wouldn't go there. I'd take other armed friends with me if I had to. Different guns in rotation. A lot of people tell me everyday carry, I got this gun, I got that gun, I got this gun, I got that gun. Look, I like watches, and I have a bunch of watches. They're not out here right now. I wear different watches every day. But a watch is really just some sort of thing that tells time and some sort of fashion accessory that matches my outfit. Your firearm is not that. So what I'd like you to think about is if you want to carry different size firearms, think about just staying in the same family. So, if you're going to carry a revolver, maybe have a 4-inch revolver for home defense and a 2-inch revolver to carry. At least the controls are all the same. The cylinder release is all the same. The cylinder rotates the same direction on the different models, all works the same. I would really get nervous if you decide you want to carry like a staccato, a 2011 or a 1911 style gun, has a thumb safety on it, or double action decocker, and then carry a Glock, because those controls are very different. I don't know about you, I do this for a living, but I still don't have enough time to train to reach the level of competence that I think I need to be when life gives me what I call the test. I train, but I don't think I ever train enough. And I definitely don't train enough to have 3, 4, 5, 6 different systems that I've got to put in my procedural memory. One of the 3 things that wins a gunfight: skilled decision maker, strong procedural skills, emotional control. So try to find a gun and stick with it, or at least a family of guns, meaning a pattern of gun that fits with it. Do you need a red dot or not? I have a red dot on my daily carry pistol. Safe gun. For me, a red dot is because I'm the kind of person that has to go to trouble being a law enforcement officer, even if I'm in civilian roles. But the second problem I got is I'm 62 years of age. I have a hard time seeing a front sight. Even being a target focused shooter, it's still very hard for me to pick these things up. A dot for me is sort of like a gunfighter's version of Walker. It's kind of like cheating. And the stuff that gives me a guaranteed hit rate at 15 yards with the iron sights suddenly turns into maybe 25 yards with the dot. Because for me, I can keep my eyes down there focused on what I want to focus. I can just trust the dot and work on it. Now, the problem with the dot, though, is it adds a lot of bulk to an otherwise compact carry pistol. So if you're going to carry a dot, make sure you have good reasons for it and understand you can't buy talent. When you put this on the gun, if I have a rifle, safe gun, I've got many points of contact to pick up the dot. The problem is with a handgun, though, it depends on a predictable presentation for that dot to be there. And until you can guarantee that when you pull that gun out, that the dot will always be there and you don't have to hunt for it, the dot is really not going to help you. And a lot of people, when they start shooting a dot, they shoot slower. And if you're not committed to taking on the tremendous responsibility to learn how to use that dot to where it actually helps, not gets in your way, I'd leave the dot off the gun. Ammo, make sure that it's reliable. You need to shoot at least 50 rounds of your defensive ammo through the gun to make sure it cycles and plays the way you want. Also, make sure that it hits the point of aim, point of impact. If you shoot some sort of weak sauce range ammo and it gets a certain point of impact, you put something in there that's really plus P high performance, you may find out you have a real attitude shift on this. Also, for a little experiment, put some range ammo in, put some defensive ammo, range ammo in some sort of random form, and just start shooting. You'll notice bang, 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 bang. And you might also notice one big old flash. If you have if you're into compensators, you may notice a big old fireball going up in front of you. So make sure that your ammo is reliable. If at all possible, make sure your practice ammo is the same grain weight as your street ammo. Also, make sure it's fresh. A lot of times I have my students come in and they'll start taking their street ammo, their defensive ammo out, putting it over here, putting their range ammo, shoot, then putting that same ammo back in there. Look, I know money's an issue with a lot of people. Heck, money's an issue with me. But we can't afford to go burn off that ammo. Matter of fact, I think it's really important. I'll talk about this later on in this conversation with training, is when you come to the range and you got your street rig on, go ahead and pull that out and shoot cold. See if you're actually producing. See if that gun does what it's supposed to do with the ammo in there and the condition you got it. If you haven't cleaned it, you haven't lubed it, you haven't numbered your mags, you haven't checked for reliability. Let's see if this thing takes a hiccup and just sort of goes south on you in that. Burn those 5, 10, 15 rounds, whatever you got, 18 rounds in the gun that you carry all the time, and send them on down range. And then also, try to make sure that when you keep chambering the same round or two in there, you either rotate that or put it in your practice box. The problem is if you keep loading and unloading your gun all the time, that top round or top 2 rounds, the problem is every time that round hits the feed ramp and goes in, it gets pushed back a little farther the case. That raises the pressures. It also reduces the size of the cartridge, which could hinder reliability. It could also cause an overpressure situation, especially defensive ammo, which is already loaded at the top of semi-pressure anyways. So if you keep loading and unloading the gun for some reason, because every night you unload it, reload it, that round also has a problem. Every time it goes forward, it can knock some of the compound out of the primer, giving you a dead round on the first shot. And the loudest noise in a gunfight is a click when you want to hear a bang, which means you have to go ahead and get back into it and basically manipulate the gun and get back into the fight. So think about your ammo. Color of a firearm. Something you might want to think about is carrying a different kind of gun. One of the advantages of carrying, sorry, but I got to holster very carefully. It's pointing at important stuff, 2 femoral arteries. Is if somebody ever says, he pointed a gun at me, well, and the officer says, describe the gun. It was a black gun. It was a silver gun. Well, if it's a distinctly colored gun, this could also prove that I did not point that gun at them. The problem, though, is when you start thinking about colors of your everyday carry gun, sometimes it looks like a toy. So if you see some sort of like Tiffany blue gun, a flaming pink gun, that may look like a toy, and that may have a perception reality problem with somebody you're pointing at this gun at. But having a very specific firearm in some situations might be helpful in making sure you maintain your innocence on this. And also your magazines. Anytime you have a magazine-fed firearm, this is essentially a disposable commodity. It's like the shocks in your car, the brakes in your car, the tires in your car. So go ahead and number each one of them. Take a paint pen and mark them up. Could be anything you want. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A1, name them, Aunt Betty, Uncle Smith, Uncle Carl. And that way, if you're ever shooting your semi-automatic handgun and all of a sudden you get unpredictable reliability, sometimes it doesn't feed fire, extract, eject. Maybe it's your magazine. You change this out, put a fresh one in there, bang, 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 away you go. Also, while we're on it, make sure you have a couple extra magazines, because if you do have an unreliable magazine, you may not want to throw away because it's the only magazine you got. Whereas if you have 2 or 3, go ahead and either make this a training magazine or just pitch it all together. But make sure you pamper your magazines and number them. Now let's talk about everyday carry training. First thing, I want you to test your training ammo for reliability. I want you to go ahead and test your draw stroke with every article of clothing you're wearing that day. So if I'm wearing a shirt that I'm not familiar with or whatever, I go ahead and I practice my draw stroke before I go ahead and head out the door. If I'm wearing a button-down shirt like this, it's a different pull for me than my usual black t-shirt I wear every day. Also, you may want to take some practice to figure it out. I find a lot of people, when they grab the shirt, they grab it this way and pull, which actually makes the shirt tighter. If I take and put my fingers down and I grab my shirt, I'm already doing most of the bulk of the pulling up and coming up. I also find with a shirt like this, if I pull it up and out at a 45-degree angle, it gives me a lot more. A shirt like this, I've got to make a violent, really big motion to try to get this thing absolutely clear, because I wear this untucked. If it's one of my black t-shirts I wear every day, boom, that's going to clear the area real quick and easy to go on in. So you want to make sure you practice your draw strokes. Also, everyday carry, any defensive use, we need to make sure that you know your area of absolute certainty. There needs to be where you know that if I make this shot, I'm capable of doing it. If you ever watch a lot of police officer body cameras, they're shooting something that they couldn't hit on a good day if it was static, much less running away from them or running left and right. So make sure you know where your limits are. And if you're in a situation where you have to use your firearm in a defensive situation, everyday carry, know that, hey, if I can't make this shot, either don't take the shot or move closer and to where you get in there where you know you can guarantee the hits, because you're responsible for every round as a good person defender. So make sure you don't take a shot outside your ability to handle it. And then finally, cleaning the gun. Now, I hope my brother Don is not watching this, but every time he shows me he's carrying a gun, it's a mess. And I think he just does this because I'm always like, just give me the damn gun. I'll go outside the garage and clean it real quick. You know, when you carry a gun, it picks up a lot of lint, a lot of body fuzz, all kinds of crap. And this can do a lot of things. It can block the optic. It can give you a fuzzy sight picture because there's literally fuzz around the sight picture. It can limit reliability. Also, remember, any lubrication you've got is affected by gravity. Everything's trying to go towards the center of the earth. And all that lubrication is going to try to go out the end of the gun. I find that modern firearms will run pretty dirty, but they really don't run dry. So make sure you find some sort of lubrication program so your gun works out really well. You may have heard me tell the story. The beginning of last year, I had some officers show up for semi-annual qualification. The first 5 officers showed up. We do them one at a time in my PD. You get an hour with me. There's no hiding from it. They have to go through a very specific series of things to make qualifications. Of the first 5 guns that showed up, 3 couldn't make it through qual because they were dirty and they weren't lubricated. We lubed them up. Little toothbrush action here, cleaning the extractor, bing, 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 everything went fine. But these are people who are carrying the gun on the street that are filthy and they're not functioning. So when you carry a gun in or about your person, you pick up a lot of dust, you pick up a lot of grime. Your body heat's going to make that stuff, that lubricant want to go right out to the center of the earth. So have a good strategy on that. In closing, everyday carry. It's as unique what you need to carry as your lifestyle and your temperament. Find enough gear that'll solve your problem, that comes comfortable. Find a carry style that's so comfortable and comforting that you don't even have to think about it or adjust it. For some of you, that means you're going to have to carry a smaller gun than you want. Some of you may have to start to adjust some things. Some of you may have to carry it off body because you're in a situation where because your body shape and the clothing you have to wear at work may not allow it. But I think if you look at Enigma, some of the other holster makers, almost any kind of clothing can be beat these days with some of the advancements we have with holster carry systems. That's the belt and that's a holster working together, again, ideally from the same manufacturer. If you forget everything I told you today, as I finish off every talk, be a guardian always and a warrior when needed.
That was awesome as always. And I'm back. Hello. Thank you, Austin, for sharing all that valuable information, even incorporating training, as I'm sure this is kind of something I probably overlooked a little bit, especially with an EDC topic. But now that Austin's covered what's in your pockets and how to carry smarter, stay ready, let's take a moment to just talk a little bit about something that is just as important as what you carry, which is what happens after you defend yourself. Because the reality is, even if you do everything right, even if you act legally and responsibly, you could still find yourself facing arrest, legal battles, or even a long court battle after a self-defense incident for yourself or even others, which is wild. But that's where Firearms Legal Protection, we come in to help you, and you can carry and continue your education and learn to protect yourself and others. So FLP is here to protect you after you protect yourself. So before we move into the Q&A, I just want to take a quick moment to explain how FLP will be there to protect you. As one of the viewers also mentioned, this is something to easily add into your everyday carry items.
Firearms Legal Protection offers several different memberships to whoever is interested in signing up for legal protection. These plans are divided into individual plans and a family plan, which some benefits and pricing vary state by state. For the purposes of this webinar, we will look at our most common plans and benefits that are available in most states. The individual basic plan includes protection in your state of residence. It also includes uncapped payment of attorney fees for defense of criminal and civil cases. Firearms Legal Protection memberships also extend to all legal weapons, including non-lethal weapons. With the individual basic plan, you also have Defense of Extreme Risk Protection Orders, also known as red flag laws. All plans have access to the 24/7 emergency attorney answered hotline, so no matter a time an incident may occur, you can count on our hotline and an attorney will pick up for immediate attorney-client privileges. You also have access to the MyFLP mobile app and one of our recently added benefits, expungement of criminal record on non-conviction incidents. Members of all plans also receive access to digital content and special discounts. The next step up is the individual premium plan. This plan has nationwide coverage and also includes all the benefits just mentioned and payment of bail bond premium, payment of expert witness and investigator fees if either are needed in your case. There's also coordination of counseling support, payment of lost wages if you are out of work during trial, and a list of other benefits. We also have the family premium plan to choose from for those who want the same protection also applied to their family. For just a little bit more, you get all the benefits that were just mentioned applied to your spouse and all minor children. If you want more information over these benefits, then check out our Instagram or Facebook page for uploaded explained benefit videos. Remember, if you, friends, or family are not already protected by Firearms Legal Protection, please click the link below for a special discount we offer our webinar viewers. Now, let's get back to today's webinar.
And we're back for the Q&A. So we have some pre-submitted ones and we can go through those real quick. And if any of you guys have any other questions, make sure to drop them in the comments. I've just been seeing a lot of just conversation in there. I haven't seen any questions roll through quite yet. So first question, if I can only carry a few items, what are the top 3 things you consider non-negotiable?
Great question. For me, it's a cell phone because it means I can call out for more people. Second thing is an OC spray. And the third thing is legal defense for self-defense, which is what protects me and my family. Because I promise you, if you use force, threaten use of force, or someone says you use force, you're going to be in legal issue. And remember, it is the worst day of your life. And for FLP lawyer, it's just Thursday.
Yeah, exactly.
You're all freaked out because, oh my God, I can't let this happen to me. And they're like, it's just the third thing I dealt with today.
Yeah, they're there to keep it calm and help you. All right, next question. What's your take on carrying medical gear like tourniquets or chest seals for everyday life?
Great question. Full disclosure, I am a Stop the Bleed DOD instructor. I'm an alert first responder medical. I'm an alert civilian response to active shooter, which has got the medical component to it. I've been teaching this for about 15 years. Having said that, if you look anywhere around my home, next to my bed, in my office, near the front door, in the passenger seat of my Jeep, in the back of that little, in the back, like the mat pocket, I've got a full big 1-gallon bag full of tourniquets and everything else. And I like having that stuff around me. Yes, I could wear an ankle kit, but first off, it's a limited amount of gear. Yes, it's nearby. But, if you wear cargo pants and you want to drop in your cargo pants, that's great. I just think it would be nice to have if you're in that situation. So what I try to do is just stage them close enough that hopefully when I have the situation, I can, even if I'm driving, reach in the back of the Jeeps and start dealing with myself person front seat while I get to a place outside of the hot zone, get to a warm zone where I can affect treatment. So yeah, I like it, but yeah. And remember, if you do have a defensive gun use, even in your home, they're not bringing EMS in until the scene's safe. So you're going to be on your own for a while. So those skills are important. The equipment's important. The mindset's important. But again, this is everyday carry. Are you going to carry a full med kit with you? Now, if you are somebody who's got an oversized purse, big backpack, go for it. If you're like me and don't carry a purse or an oversized backpack, just try to keep it staged as close as you can. Now, if I'm going out to a function, like if I'm going to like a 4th of July big festival, whatever, I'm going to have a tourniquet or 2 in my pocket. I'm a big fan of soft tee. I can pack 2 of these in a cargo pocket. These are important. Wound packing material is important, and a really good pair of trauma shears is important. With that, I'm pretty comfortable. So if I'm going to a high risk situation, yeah, I would. That'd be something I would probably say, okay, means I have to take my EDC up 1 level, or make sure that's stuffed in my wife's purse, or put it in the cooler, or someplace where it's going to be nearby staged. Good question.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Someone just put in the comments, which you can probably just
Someone just said I'd add a flashlight that load out. Right. Massive love. Yeah. Between me, a flashlight and a pepper spray, I'll travel anywhere just about and feel pretty damn comfortable. So if that's on your list, yeah, you're about a step ahead of me. But having said that, though, I carry my expensive flashlight every day, everywhere. So good idea. Who was that said flashlight? Forgot.
Your shoe.
Instructor points.
Yep.
I give you an apple. You're such a good student. I give you an apple. Teacher.
I like that. All right. Next question. How should I adjust my EDC if I'm in a more restrictive environment like workplace or travel?
Ooh, this is a tricky question, because if you're adjusting it because you're in a restrictive environment, meaning you shouldn't be carrying there, you're going to have a problem if you have to use that firearm and if you get caught there. Remember, as I told somebody once in the back of my patrol cars to take them to jail, dude, 1 felony at a time. It's kind of a life lesson. So, we have to be very careful and become law-abiding citizens. If we're ever caught in a situation where we get fired because we had an illegal weapon, these things can have 2nd and 3rd degree effects on us. So if I'm in a situation where in a restrictive environment where I can't carry a firearm, I'm going to have a tactical pen. I'm going to have a flashlight. If I can't carry an OC, I'm going to have an OC if I can have one. I'm going to also think about making sure I've got the avoid, deny, defend program down pat and know my exits. So you just have to adjust. And again, I travel all over the world for vacation. I'm gone a lot of times 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time, don't carry guns. So when I'm in those situations, restrictive environment where I don't have my gun, that's okay. I got to have more situational awareness. I got to have more de-escalation, and I've got to be more mentally ready with my gun sticks.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Is it better to carry more gear or stick to the basics and focus on training?
This is a deep question. I think it's better to stick on the basics and focus on training. But if you're training with a firearm and you're not carrying a firearm, what are you training for? I think there's certain universal things that make us safer than the tool. The problem with the tool is whether it's pepper spray, a defensive knife, a flashlight, whatever you want to put there, a firearm. That's you get to use that when the event happens. It is Patrick says the bang. Okay, we're trying to keep things left of bang. So the less ability I have to control the situation when it goes kinetic, the more I want to be on this other side of preparation, which means I'm not going to be intoxicated. I'm not going to be walking in places that have limited visibility. I'm not going to be in a place where I'm not paying attention. I'm not going to be in a place where I don't have my plan A, plan B, plan C, where I've got my good verbal game, de-escalation skills to handle my unknown contacts, to give you a Craig Douglas kind of phrase. So you just have to up your support skill sets, because you won't have your firearm or your pepper spray because you're in a restrictive environment. You're going to have to be more on the left side and just make sure we don't get to bang.
Yeah. Okay. Another question. What are the most comfortable holsters for all day carry? We had some questions about in the comments about holsters as well. So this is perfect timing.
Okay. Full disclosure, I owned a holster company for a lot of years. I own Kangaroo Carry holsters. Anybody who's been carrying a gun for a long time, honestly, we all have that one big box or drawer full of holsters that we thought when we bought them would solve the problem. And maybe for the first day or so, they solve the problem. And it is as unique as your situation and your body shape. The most comfortable holster as a universal suggestion probably is going to be the Filster Enigma, as I mentioned in here before. But when you start adding all the stuff that really works for me, like I've got the little sport belt, which is the bigger part that goes around. This attaches exactly to your body. Got a little leg leash that keeps you from yanking the holster up with the gun when you go to your draw stroke. But man, this sucker is expensive. It's worth every penny because it does what it's supposed to do, and it is built for days. But it's a chunk of change. You might be looking at $250, $275 by the time everything's all said and done on that rig. But it may solve your carry problem. It also is great for me when I'm in a pair of sweats or jammies or whatever around the house. If I got my Enigma on, I can go out the car and, a pair of shorts or whatever. It's just comfortable because it's not dependent on the clothing. All the clothing's got to do is cover you up.
Yeah, exactly. All right. We have a couple more questions. So if anyone has anything else to ask, put it in the comments. The next one is, how often should I rotate or inspect my holster and belt setup?
There's a couple of things about that. I don't know if you need to be rotating them, but inspecting them, put yourself on a simple schedule. For me, I kind of like to start the month off where I get the last day of the month, first day of the month. I go ahead and I just make sure that I've shot at least. I like to shoot every 30 days. And when I go shoot, it's not like I'm going to go burn off 200 or 300 ammo. Usually I've got about 100 rounds I'm going to shoot. I'm going to pull in the range. I've got a certain list of things I do to make sure that I've got my gun zero where I want it to shoot, point of aim, point impacts where it's supposed to be. But I think at least every 30 days. Now, if you're really rough on your carry things, if you're like a delivery driver, if you're somebody who works construction, you're an AC repair guy, up and down ladders. That's a lot different than somebody who's a desk mainly works at a desk and doesn't have those kind of experiences. It kind of depends on your exposure, especially this time of year. One of the things you want to do is if you're out in a lot of the heat, checking it for sweat and checking it for how much you need to lube that gun. Because remember, the hotter it gets, the less viscous it gets, and it wants to run right to the center of the earth. Good question.
Yeah. All right. Couple more. What mindset should I have when building my EDC? Defensive or utility?
Ooh, what am I saying? Utility. Defensive or utility? I would say defensive. The utility part reminds me a little bit of, let's try this. There's a difference between a first aid kit and a trauma kit. A first aid kit's about boo-boos and that kind of stuff. And a trauma kit's about stopping bleeding and massive life-saving injuries. And it doesn't mean that one is more important than the other, but one is not replaced for the other. So for me, I think about it as defensive. And the utility would be like carrying my knife. I carry a knife all the time, but I'm not planning on stabbing anybody with it. I carry this right here, and that blade allows me to make like a screwdriver, scrape things off on it, open Amazon packages, all the stuff a tactical guy needs to do. Clean my fingernails, whatever.
The fingernails, the Amazon packages.
Well, not in that order, okay?
Right.
An Amazon package is kind of gummy, so it really gets in there and gets this. Look at that, really clean right there.
Exactly.
Gross. So, can we go to the next question?
Question. Great answer.
How does he know the questions? Why don't you put them in the comments? I'm reading her
Yes, exactly.
Just thinks it, I just know we're on this. We've been
That
doing it for like
powerful.
almost 2 years now, so we just run the save wave. Amazing. Come see our
Yep.
Vegas show.
Yeah. All right. Last question. Should I have a bare minimum and carry setup for quick errands or short outings?
Yes, the reason we have EDC is for non-negotiable no's. Remember, human beings only communicate 2 ways: force or reason. As long as you read somebody, I want to use force. But if they're not going to be reasonable and communicate with words, the only thing I understand is force. And to do that, you can use your hands, you can use BJJ, you can use whatever you want. But remember, we use tools to make life easier. I could probably drive a nail with my hand if I really thought about it, but a hammer is going to make it easier. And what a firearm does, or a pepper spray, it allows me to project force at a farther distance than my arm and my hand with less risk to these things which are never designed to hit other human beings. So yeah, a bare minimum. That's one of the things I really like about pocket carry and a small gun like a Ruger LCR. Just you can drop it in your pocket in a holster. Okay, we don't just drop in our pocket, but in a pocket holster designed for that, or a smaller, lighter carry gun. But hopefully, that gun matches the same action that your main firearm does, or that you train enough on it so that the fact that this thing takes, a lot of my baby cops don't even understand how to shoot a revolver. When I put this down there, they're short stroking it, they're pulling and pulling. Why hadn't it gone off yet? Because they grew up on Glocks. So if you're going to do that, make sure you do it enough that you have, remember the 3 things: skill decision making, solid procedural skills, and emotional control to win a gunfight. Make sure you got the procedural skills so that the piece of equipment doesn't slow you down or just run stop when it doesn't match up to your training. Because remember, in times of crisis, we only can we don't rise our level of expectation. We fall to our lowest level of training. And when we get freaked out, we lose prefrontal cortex. We go to the procedural part of the brain, not declared part of the brain. Any behavior not learned under stress can't be recalled under stress. And that's when some of the most primitive primal responses come out instead of programming. So more training, more training, more training, more training.
Absolutely. And that was a great way to conclude it as well. All righty, everyone. We are going to wrap things up for tonight. I don't see any other questions that have come through, but if you do have any other questions, or if you're interested in attending simulator training with Austin or learning more about Concealed Coalition courses, feel free to email marketing@firearmslegal.com. I'm so happy to help with any questions that you have. Also, if tonight's topic was beneficial for you, we're happy to get any type of response of what you want to see in the future. So we have a link in the caption to let us know what you would like to see in the future. And everything is available to watch on YouTube channel. So make sure to subscribe and check out those videos. I saw someone had commented as well, which I dropped in the comments. But if you missed any of this one, it will be up on YouTube. But thank you everyone again who joined us tonight. And a big thank you as always to Austin for sharing his time and insight with us once again. As always, protect yourself and we'll protect you. Everyone have a great rest of your night. Night, everyone.